Right guys, this story has been developing since yesterday with enough information coming out now for me to actually cover it and call out the clear downplaying of events that we have been seeing. It is beyond doubt at this point the media tried their best to hide any details about the scumbag who committed these crimes for most of yesterday. The BBC, naturally, is the main culprit, reinforcing what we have said about defunding and destroying it completely. They went out of their way to cover up who did this despite citing eyewitnesses who gave a detailed description of who was responsible that other outlets actually reported. The police have also taken part in this politically correct censorship of vital facts that could have led to an arrest much earlier. And even the media outlets who did report the suspect's description yesterday still did not report on it correctly and are still making baseless claims about there being no motive. The suspect, time taken, and location of the attack suggest a couple of possible motives to me and anyone with half a brain cell. Now, the media are saying there is one dead and 7 injured, with eyewitnesses stating this low-life fuckpig stabbed a woman in the neck multiple times 20 metres from him. Yet apparently there is no motive and these are all random. It pisses me off the low-life media and police force is downplaying these events much like we see in Reading not that long ago. At this point I personally consider them as low as the fuckpig who committed these crimes. Serious questions need to be asked about the competence of West Midlands Police in relation to this situation. For nearly 2 hours this guy rampaged around stabbing people in Birmingham city centre and yet still he managed to get away. Taking the police 26 hours in total to actually find him. Was they too busy policing Twitter or something? Obviously those in charge should be sacked, especially as one of them came out trying to blame this on the coronavirus and the lockdown, which is obviously just batshit crazy but par for the course for these tosspot coppers and of course the media who will happily promote this bullshit story. I'm just waiting to hear mental health issues come into it soon. The BBC will probably be the first to pump that out. It's not like we haven't seen it before. Take a look at Glasgow again with the broadband excuse that Sky News gave us almost instantly. Now as you can see here from the BBC yesterday, they quoted the same eyewitness as Sky News but refused to include the description he gave despite Sky and other news outlets releasing the information. Reports are suggesting the man is from Somalia, which naturally has caused lefty losers on Twitter to show themselves up yet again. By complaining, people have incorrectly labelled where this low-life fuckpig came from rather than the fact that he butchered 8 people in the street, killing one of them. But as you all know, that's literally par for the course with scumbags on Twitter. So let's take a look at what Sky News and their piss poor article from this morning had to say, because I'll tell you something, they still ain't giving us the full story. It headlines Birmingham stabbings, police arrest man 27 on suspicion of murder and attempted murder. Now bearing in mind this happened on Saturday night, he was loose for 26 hours like I said. What the fuck were the police actually doing? He managed to march around Birmingham for 2 hours and was not stopped or apprehended by the old bill, and then it took them a further 24 hours to actually fucking find him. A 27-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of murder and attempted murder over a series of stabbing in Birmingham that left one dead and several others injured, West Midlands Police has said. He is being questioned in police custody after officers worked into the early hours to trace him. It shouldn't have took that long. I don't understand how you can make out like they have done something good here. Birmingham Police Commander Chief Superintendent Steve Graham said, officers worked through yesterday and into the early hours of this morning in a bid to trace the man we believe responsible for these terrible crimes. We issued CCTV footage of the suspect and had a strong response from the public. I'd like to thank everyone who shared our appeal and who provided information to the investigation. One line of inquiry ultimately led us to an address in Selly Oak area this morning where a man was arrested. Clearly, this is a crucial development, but our investigation continues. And here we have a picture of the man they believe to be doing it, and they're trying to say it was coronavirus's fault. What a complete and utter load of bollocks that is. The suspect was arrested on 1 count of murder and 7 counts of attempted murder, a fourth spokesman added, which just the number of people killed and the fact that he moved around a rather large area of Birmingham doing this suggests a motive to me, but we'll get into that in a moment. A 23-year-old man died and 7 other people suffered knife injuries during the attack early on Sunday morning. All the injured were taken to hospital, where 2 were later discharged. So 5 remain in hospital and 1 man lies dead, and the police, media and the rest of these low-life scumbags are downplaying it like a bunch of cunts. Fuck off phone. The stabbings, which happened over 2 hours in 4 locations across the city centre, were described as truly dreadful and unusual by West Midlands Police and Crime Commissioner David Jameson. Willumsen. Well, they are truly dreadful, but unusual is not really true, is it? Let's be honest there. How many times has shit like this happened in the past 12 months? Shit, how many times has something like this happened just this year alone, and we're not even at the end of it yet? But it shows the stabbings which happened over 2 hours in 4 locations across the city centre. That says, what the fuck were the police doing? And also to me, it says the motive is either terrorism or some form of hate crime against the people who frequent that area. Which, I don't really know Birmingham, but I have been told it is the LGBT area of the city, so it could be that reason also. He told Sky News to think that people going about enjoying their evening out were attacked by what appears to be a lone knifeman is truly dreadful. Our thoughts must be with the family of the deceased man and those who are still in hospital recovering from their injuries. West Midlands Police Force faced criticism over the delayed response to the incident and why the suspect had 2 hours to run around the city centre, which is something I have obviously said in this video and should go without saying for anyone. A knifeman should not be free to run around for 2 hours stabbing people at will and then be able to escape and sit in his house for the next 24 hours before the police get round to finding him. It also took them 15 hours to release CCTV of the suspected attacker, a decision described as remarkable by J Singh Joel, Conservative candidate for West Midlands Police and Crime Commissioner. And I expect the reason they did that is the same reason the BBC hid his race earlier in the day. Obviously, they always tried to deny reality. This was just another attempt of that, but there was no way of doing it. These police officers are just scum at the end of the day. Labour MP for Perry Bar, Khalid Mahmood, suggested the man who died could have been saved if the police responded quicker. Well, fuck me, a Labour MP actually said something that is based in reality and has some sense to it. But I have to agree with him 100%. It is definitely possible if the police would have done their job, then people might not have been hurt and this man might not have died. He told the Times, we've got to look at the fact the suspect had 2 hours to run around the city centre, which has a huge amount of CCTV cameras in place, because obviously it's a city centre in the United Kingdom under Big Brother's watch. Questions really need to be asked what the fuck the police were actually up to. It continues, where was the monitoring? Both the public and police were put at further risk. There is a person dead. How was this man able to go on a 2-hour spate? Well, we know how, because obviously the West Midlands Police Force is a completely useless bunch of tosspots, probably spending more time bending the knee than actually fighting crime. Crime Commissioner Mr. Jameson said his officers acted extraordinarily well, but a full inquiry will take place and any lessons learned. In other words, we'll say we'll do a full inquiry, but we'll just cover it up and hope the people forget about it. Now, obviously, original reports were suggesting that there was just a fight outside a pub, but the fact that it was 4 different locations over the course of 2 hours kind of shits on that narrative. You will notice the police and the media are trying their best not to give a motive, but we all know there are only a couple of possible motives for this crime. It is either some form of terrorist attack or a hate crime against gay people, because they are generally the people who frequent this area of Birmingham. Much like with Reading and anywhere else that shit like this happens though, the media does their best to cover it up, and in this case the police have done a completely piss poor job from start to finish. How many more of these situations will we see? Personally, I think government ministers should be held responsible for this shit, especially if it turns out this guy was an illegal immigrant, which I'm willing to bet it will fucking turn out to be.
We're off!